Pop quiz. Which of the following is torture? A. Sitting through a Major League Baseball game with more pitching changes than fans. B. Watching social media ITES protest the cultural appropriation du jour. C. Listening to people incessantly talk about weather. Advertisement B. Giving terrorists, who may harbor knowledge of an impending attack on America, milk, cookies, healthcare, and a warm bed to gain life-saving intel. Obviously, all but D, and that begs the question, if we are giving the royal treatment to captured terrorists by not performing enhanced interrogation techniques, EITs, to extract vital information, then how can we ever expect to know the truth? The naivete, let alone stupidity, of such a policy borders on the insane, yet that's exactly the system we have in place. Unfortunately, despite Donald Trump's campaign promise to employ EITs, there is no evidence that anything has changed. In fact, the issue of torture, both its past legal use, as well as plans to revive it, have come under heavy fire now that the president has nominated acting CIA Director Gina Haspel to become the agency's first permanent female leader. Ms. Haspel's confirmation hearings promise to be brutal. Why? Because as a CIA officer, she operated a so-called black site facility in Thailand in 2002, where non-lethal EITs, such as waterboarding, were used to extract information from Al-Qaeda terrorists. For those with convenient memory loss, Al-Qaeda happens to be the organization that attacked the United States on September 11, 2001, killing nearly 3,000 innocent people. They're the same guys who keep attacking Shoe Bomber, Times Square Bomber, Fort Hood Massacre, etc., and have successfully killed hundreds in Europe, Madrid and Moscow train bombings, attacks in France, Turkey, Belgium, etc., and around the world. So let's get this straight, the first woman nominated to run America's most important agency, and we could certainly use a woman's perspective and toughness, is under siege because she did what was necessary to uncover attacks before they occurred. She's being criticized for filling volumes of what had been blank pages with information about terrorist networks, logistics, financial channels, operatives, training, capabilities, tactics and strategies. And she's being demonized despite being directly responsible for saving countless lives. Have Americans really gotten that soft content to binge-watch Netflix while pretending that terror threats no longer exist? How soon we forget. Ms. Haspel offered to withdraw her nomination. To his credit, Mr. Trump reaffirmed his choice, but it's nowhere near enough. If the president doesn't want to blow another nomination, he must use his bully pulpit to articulate why the CIA needs Gina Haspel's leadership, and why America desperately needs a rejuvenated Central Intelligence Agency. Even General Michael Hayden, former director of both the CIA and NSA, and frequent Trump critic, thinks Haspel would be a fantastic choice, which is especially relevant given that the president has been highly critical of the intelligence community. And if there is still any doubt, this will seal the deal. The European Center for Constitutional and Human Rights wants her arrested for torturing terrorists, and a former deputy legal director for the ACLU called her, quite literally, a war criminal. You can't get any better endorsements than those. America's self-inflicted vulnerabilities are being exploited by the very people we make ever so comfortable. Our love affair with political correctness makes the nation weaker, and, as any third grader can tell you, weakness invites aggression. With that in mind, here's a look at the truth and misconceptions behind enhanced interrogation. 1. Stop mincing words. Enhanced interrogation is torture. It is inflicting mental, psychological and yes, sometimes physical anguish on individuals who hold crucial information. So what's the problem? As John Malkovich's character, General Timms, says in Mulholland Falls, 100 may die so that 1,000 may live. It's a cornerstone of civilization. Torture critics need to ask themselves on which side of that equation they want to be. 2. Rather than EIT proponents running away from the word torture, they should be embracing its merits. Air commercial with a side-by-side comparison of America versus Al-Qaeda, ISIS. Sure, America used to waterboard and rectally rehydrate, just a fancy word for high-dollar colonics, but how is that compared to castration, burning, hanging, and, as we know all too well, decapitating on the world stage? You cannot fight a war with caveats and restrictions under the misguided pretense of civility. That's not to say we should engage in the terrorists' methods, but what we do isn't remotely close to the real torture they joyfully inflict. 3. There is a myth that torture doesn't work, and specifically, that detainees will tell their interrogators false information to stop the pain. Whoever came up with that idiotic theory should be waterboarded. Bet the ranch we'd see a record for how fast he would give up his own mother. Inflicting pain to extract information intuitively works, and has been done since the dawn of human history. Proof. Sibling A hides sibling B's phone. After nice attempts to acquire it fail, sibling B twists the arm of sibling A, and guess what? Sibling A quickly gives up the info. Voila! Here's the best part. If sibling A purposely gives sibling B bad information, the level of pain will increase exponentially until the phone is found. This isn't a hard concept. We should deal with terrorists the same way. The only differences are the methods employed, since Mr. Terrorist isn't hiding a phone, but a bomb, or a nuclear, biological or chemical device, potentially one in a school. 4. Here's the question torture opponents never answer, because they can't. If not EITs, then what? Specifically, if not torture, what's our hammer? Asking politely? Expecting a change of heart? Get real. Terrorists' information is hard to come by under the best of circumstances. Not utilizing effective, non-lethal methods, when the lives of thousands and perhaps millions are at stake, is inexcusable. 5. Torture isn't employed for retribution. Rather, it is a means to a very important end. High-value detainees hold critical information. Where will the next truck attack be? Who is making IEDs? Who's designing the airplane-specific bombs hidden in laptop batteries? Where are their facilities? Who is the ballistics mastermind? Most important, who is seeking, designing, manufacturing and transporting chemical, biological, radioactive and nuclear bombs? Where are the devices located? What are the targets? And what is the timetable? Extracting this intel before an attack can be executed is obviously better than waiting until Washington is vaporized, with America thrown into the Dark Ages. 6. Just because our enemy does something doesn't mean we should too. It's lowering ourselves to their level. Really? Is that how wars are supposed to be fought? We utilized the concept of total warfare in World War II, including firebombing Dresden and Tokyo, which killed more civilians than either atomic bomb. Was it immoral? Unethical? Did we lower ourselves to the enemy's level? Maybe. But guess what? It helped end the war, saving millions on both sides. We live in the real world, not insulated ivory towers where it's so easy to spout self-righteous platitudes and cast aspersions on those charged with protecting life and liberty. Unfortunately, unseemly methods sometimes need to be employed, so let's stop demonizing those whose job is protecting America from horrific attacks. To paraphrase the words of Colonel Nathan Jessup in A Few Good Men, we have the luxury of not knowing what Gina Haspel knows, and that her existence, while grotesque and incomprehensible to armchair analysts, saves lives. Here's hoping Ms. Haspel plays a real-life Jessup by telling an intransigent Senate, "I have neither the time nor the inclination to explain myself to a man who rises and sleeps under the blanket of the very freedom that I provide and then questions the manner in which I provide it." Let the waterboarding games recommence. Chris Freind is an independent columnist and commentator. His print column appears every Wednesday. He can be reached at cf@ffzmedia.com.